Only 2 quarterfinal round spots remain in the AWA World Light Heavyweight Championship Tournament as Michigan's Nate Mattson has made his way to the ring to face our own Kid Justice. I am joined by the Gemini Kid from right here at CWF Mid-Atlantic.
What a pleasure it is to be here. What a fantastic first night for the AWA World Light Heavyweight Championship. We've seen some fantastic matches, and I'm glad to be sitting here. Not happy to be beside Brad Stutz, but I'm happy to be here to call these final 2 matches in the quarterfinals.
Nate Mattson from Michigan, the most decorated wrestler in the history of the independent wrestling revolution, has wrestled throughout the country, was actually trained by Scott D'Amore, the original Canadian Destroyer, and Irish Mickey Doyle. He would later go on to train Chris Sabin, who's currently in Total Nonstop Action. So this guy has got the pedigree, the credentials that we've been talking about throughout the tournament against our own Kid Justice, the current Rising Generation League champion. And one thing that I touched on briefly earlier, in CWF Mid-Atlantic, the home promotion for this tournament, the last couple of months, we've seen Crazy K, Ultra Dragon, Osiris, and Kid Justice in a big rivalry leading up to this tournament. With Crazy K, Osiris, and Dragon already advancing to the quarterfinals, you've got to believe there's a lot of pressure on Kid Justice to also advance to the quarterfinals and potentially win that rivalry with his companions, his compatriots here in CWF Mid-Atlantic.
Oh, that's for sure. As you see, Mattson, you went over his credentials. He scored some big match wins recently, including one over Ricky Landell in Michigan. And you've got to think he's thinking this is the place to finally showcase those skills. He's got Kid Justice in there. He's got the size advantage, but Justice is pretty quick. Mattson's quick himself. You see that over the back into an arm drag. Nice move that has Justice thinking, well, maybe I'm not as quick as I thought I was.
Mattson representing UCW out of Michigan, which was the site of Steve Corino winning the AWA World Heavyweight Championship. So they've been under the microscope in the AWA before, and it would be a big boost to that company to have their representative win the World Light Heavyweight Championship.
Most definitely. On that very show is when he wrestled Ricky Landell and defeated Ricky Landell, so you've got to think he's one of the lead favorites, the lead candidates to walk away in this tournament with the championship.
That's exactly right. Going behind Kid Justice now.
Justice with a nice leg sweep. Mattson push him off into the ropes. Up and over. Oh, there's a monkey flip, sends Justice flying.
And now Mattson controlling Kid Justice. Sends him into the rope. Big back elbow, good elevation from Nate Mattson. One of the taller, one of the bigger frame-wise competitors in this field.
He's definitely much larger than Justice. He's got to use that advantage if he wants to keep Justice down. He needs to keep him from flying, because once Justice gets in the air, he just about can't be stopped.
That's exactly right. The field of 24 has already dwindled down to only 10. The 6 that have already qualified for the quarterfinals. Justice and Mattson, and of course our final second round match coming up next, Ricky Reyes and Jesse Ortega. Mattson controlling Kid Justice. We've talked a little tonight about the Rising Generation League at CWF Mid-Atlantic. What do you think going into a tournament like this, these guys that have less experience, the least experienced competitors in this tournament, how big of a disadvantage is that? But at the same time, how big of a motivating factor can that be to win this tournament and make your name?
It's definitely a huge disadvantage. Mattson surely has a lot more experience. He's got a lot more things he can fall back on, a lot more tricks to pull out of his bag to pull out the win. But you got to look at the heart of a competitor. That is what determines who wins a match. You got all the skill, you got all the muscle, but I'm telling you, it's the heart. When you dig down, when you don't think you have anything else left, just like that, when you make the kick out, even though your body's saying no, your heart says yes, and you keep going.
We saw it earlier tonight with Ultra Dragon. The heart of these competitors is really showing in this tournament, beating men bigger than them, and Mattson, as we've said earlier, has a decisive size advantage. Big forearm, catches Justice right under the jaw. Mattson, well-traveled, has been competing in his home state of Michigan, has competed in Ontario, Canada, Tennessee, Pennsylvania, West Virginia, Indiana, all over the country. Big cross body from Kid Justice, but only gets 2. Katie Kincaid right there.
He's following it up with there's a sunset flip. No, it was blocked.
Oh, eats a leg drop from Nate Mattson. this crowd a little bit split. Mattson, you saw the handshake with Kid Justice before this bout started. Mattson looking to make his name without bending the rules, looking to stay on the good side of things here with Kid Justice, and thus far we've seen a very even technical match.
Now he slipped into an abdominal stretch. This is a very painful move. It puts pressure in your back, in your legs, in your hips, and across that shoulder. Now he's lifted up the leg. This is actually a move in Mexico. It's called a la Nazi. It's where you've almost got the guy in a swastika, and Justice is in some serious trouble here because he doesn't have many outs.
Crowd starting to rally behind Justice a little bit, rolls it into a cradle, but only gets 2. Kincaid was not in great position to see the shoulders, but Mattson cuts him off again. Mattson is serious in this tournament. We saw others. We saw Noah Lott earlier take it not as seriously. We saw Damian think he had Crazy K beat. Mattson is taking this tournament very seriously.
Justice turns it around, going to give some of his own chops.
Justice is
big forearm.
Firing back on Nate Mattson.
That's what you got to do if you want to win this match, and then he just got pulled right into that rope. You know that knocked the wind out of him. He's in trouble now.
As a pro, you can attest to this. Outsiders do not take into account how much those ropes can be used as a weapon. That cable comes across your sternum and your chest. You're going to have a hard time breathing throughout the course of this match.
It's 1/4-inch steel cable. I don't know how many times you've been hit with a steel cable, but it hurts.
That's exactly right. And Justice now feeling the effects of it. Shot to the gut. Big kick to the knee.
He's following up with a lot of impact moves, which is good. You got to stun your opponent, but he's got to be able to follow it up with something big if you want to put Mattson away. He's just got too much ability, too many moves to fall back on. His experience. Justice, I think, is wasting his time with the punches.
Went for the 10 punches. Wow, what a clothesline. He was in the air to connect with Nate Mattson.
That's what you got to do. You got to give it all. You got to put everything into each impact. If you want to stun that guy, you want to beat him down so bad that he will not kick out on the 3 count.
Gemini Kid, as we've mentioned before, the head trainer here at the CWF Dojo, and competing before your home crowd. We've talked about this earlier with Xyrus, with Kamikaze Kid, with Brass Monkey, Mitch Connor, these guys that are representing CWF Mid-Atlantic in this tournament. That is the maneuver that we saw Kid Justice pull out earlier in his first round bout against the great Malachi. Does not get him the win in this one.
Not quite enough.
How much pressure is it to compete in front of your hometown crowd? You know, we talked earlier about people like Great Malachi, Jarrell Clark, that don't necessarily have to come back to CWF Mid-Atlantic. You know, these guys that really make their living wrestling in this territory are going to have to compete before these crowd again, and really are going to be looking to save face if they don't go all the way in this tournament.
I think these guys are putting their hearts out there. I think the fans see that they're giving them everything they can. Win, lose, or draw, I feel very strongly these fans will continue to support the CWF wrestlers that were lucky and fortunate enough to participate in this event.
Hopefully so. You got to also take into account, we talked about earlier, Xyrus, Dragon, and Justice have had a big rivalry in the last couple of months in CWF Mid-Atlantic. You've got to take into account bragging rights. And who will have sort of the bragging rights amongst the boys if a CWF Mid-Atlantic competitor is successful.
Oh, a tornado DDT, and that could be the end of Kid Justice.
Off the ropes. It looked like Justice tried to throw his body down and not get all of the DDT, but he is clutching at that neck, so he still got wrenched.
I think he was lucky in that he did try to block it, and Mattson took more of it than he normally would, but it certainly stunned Justice.
Crowd starting to liven up a little bit. One arm over Kid Justice, but only gets 2.
You're not going to keep a guy like that down. His heart's too big to pin him like that.
Justice has held the Rising Generation League Championship in CWF Mid-Atlantic for going on 8 months now. He is a pugnacious competitor. He is tenacious. And a lot of people, I think, tend to overlook Justice. He is a fiery competitor when he gets in there. Shot, he could be going up for the fireman's carry. Airplane spin and drops him in a TKO. I thought he was going to go for that hooking fisherman suplex that we've seen Justice use before.
Well, that was a big impact blow. Now is the time to follow it up, make it count, get the pinfall, and get to Saturday night. He's going to the top. He's going to try to, I know he's got a lot of great leaping ability, a lot of great moves he can do all the top. And this is a hit or miss, though. Win, lose, this could make it all.
Moonsault lands on his feet. He's back up. Duck of the clothesline. Cuts him off with an STO. And now Mattson looks to be going to the ropes.
He's going to show he can fly too. He's up to the top. Off, big leg drop.
Big time guillotine leg drop. And that does it. Kid Justice out in the second round. And Nate Mattson with a big guillotine leg drop off the top advances into the quarterfinals of the AWA World Light Heavyweight Tournament.